Hello everyone, this is Haddad here again. So we are now going to do our lab number 13, and it's going to be about the stub and the totally stub areas. Okay, so we're going to focus on those two types of areas for now. These are the 6 points that we have to follow in this lab, as you can see here. But before we go through these points, let me first show you what is the lab scenario. As you can see here, this is our lab diagram. We have the backbone area connected to area 2, connected to area 1, and then we have here RIP. Okay, so what we need now to do is to make the stub and totally stub on area 2. Okay, so area 2, like we said, when you make it a totally stub area, then he will not receive any inter area, which is LSA type 3, and any external route as well, which are LSA type 5. So we're going to see that on router 5. And when we make it a stub area, then in this case, only the external route will not be shown on router 5, which is inside the area 2. Okay, so this is really what we need to do in this lab now. Let's go now and see the points that we have to follow. Point number 1, all IP addresses are already configured as per the graph with their bridge interfaces. So again, if I go back to the picture here, every router has a bridge interface like we always do in every lab, but I'm not putting that here to keep the picture as simple as possible. Okay, so the IP addresses are already configured, and I try to ping each of the interfaces, and it's okay. Now, point number 2, OSPF is already configured as per the graph. So actually it is OSPF and RIP are already configured, and what I've done here, I have made the redistribution of the RIP. So now the OSPF areas over here, they know all networks about RIP because I made a redistribution to this network, but also I made from OSPF to RIP. So that means that router 4 can know all the networks of the OSPF, and all the routers of OSPF, they know the networks of RIP. Okay, so this has been already done. Point number 3, check if redistribution is working. So the best idea to check if redistribution is working is to go to router 5. And from router 5, I will issue a ping to 44.44.44.44. That's the bridge interface of router 4. Okay, and as you can see, he can reach the bridge interface of router 4, which is in RIP. Okay, and router 5 is in OSPF, as you can see here in the graph in front of you. Okay, if you want, also we can go to router 4, and from router 4, let's say we can make a ping to router 1 bridge interface 11.11.11.11, and you can see router 4 is also able to reach. Okay, you can also look inside the routing table. You can see all the routing tables having the networks of RIP, and also the router of RIP is having all the routing in his routing table, the networks of OSPF. Point number 4, make area 2 as a totally stub area. A small review of what the totally stub area is. We said that totally stub areas block LSA type 3 and LSA type 5. LSA type 5 is the external route, means the route coming from RIP, for example, in our case. And the LSA type 3 are the inter-areas route, that means the routes coming from the networks which are in OSPF but in other areas. Okay, so we need to make area 2 as a totally stub area, and then we will need to see if we still have the type number 3 and the type number 5 on router 5. Okay, so if we look here in the picture, we see that area 2 is having an ABR, which is router 1. That's good. So to make it in a totally stub area, then in this case we have to make it on all the routers which are in that area. In this case we have router 1 and we have router 5. Okay, so let's go directly and make area 2 as a totally stub area. To do that, we have to go, let me go first to router 1. I will go routing OSPF areas, and then we said we want to make area 2 as a totally stub area. Before I do that, actually, the best idea is to check what we have now before we do the totally stub area. I will go to router 5. This is router 5. And I will go to routing OSPF, and we can go here to, for example, LSA. And over here you can see that on router 5 he's because at this moment area 2 is not a totally stub area or any type of stub areas, so he's getting the external. So you can see them here. This is the bridge network of router 4 on RIP. and he's getting the summary networks. Okay, so these are this is type 5 and this is the type 3 in this case. Okay, because it is an inter area. We can look here if you want. You can see that this is exterior 2 because I redistribute RIP as type 2. Okay, so that's why we can see external 2. But also we can see here the inter area. So is seeing all the inter areas. So when we want now to make area 2 as a totally stub area, then we should not see anymore this, and we should not see anymore all the inter areas, because inter areas are belonging to LSA type 3. Okay, so as I'm on our router 5, I will go directly to areas, and we said that we want to make area 2, so we go to area 2, we want to make it the type to be stub. Here when we say in MikroTik stub, that means it is totally stub. Okay, in Cisco is different, we say stub, that means stub. But here when we say stub on MikroTik, that means it is totally stub and not stub. That means it will block LSA 3 and 5. So when I say okay, we look here in the neighbors directly, it will lose neighborship with router 1 because router 1 is on that area, on area 2 is not yet a totally stub area. So let me go to router 1, and from here I will go to routing, I will go to OSPF, and to areas, here I will say also stub, and area 2 stub, okay. And now we check directly, he will form neighbor in a moment with router 5. You can see now, he formed the neighbors here. So I will go to router 5 and we will check now what we have. So we go to routes. So now router 5, until now he has only the intra area, that means the network inside his area, he can see them. And in a moment, we should get a default route, okay? This takes a bit of time, but that will come. So here we can see now that he get a default route, and he's saying on the default route that if you want to go to anywhere, you can go to the gateway 192.168.15.1, and that's the Ethernet 3 interface of router 1, which is this one. Okay, so then he get the route here saying that if you want to go to anywhere, to the other routers in OSPF and other areas, or to RIP, you just send it to the gateway. So he doesn't see anymore any external or for example any inter areas also routes. He doesn't see that. The only thing he see is to go to the default route if you want to go outside this area. And in this case we are convinced that when we make stub, then it is a totally stub on MikroTik. And here we can see also those are type 1 and type 2 LSA, okay, inside the area itself, and it is the default route that we've seen. Okay. But now, if we want to make a small experiment, we can go to ping 44.44.44.44, that's on RIP, and we can see he still reached RIP. That's no problem for him. So you can see that when we make stop, you can see directly that the LSA are less, the routes are less. That means it's much less work on the router for memory usage and CPU processing as well. And if we go to IP routes, here we can see also that's it, a default route coming from OSPF. So this is really what totally stub area is. So make area 2 a totally stub area. Do you still see LSA type 3? No. And LSA type 5? Also no, we don't see them anymore on router 5. Because totally stub area blocks the inter areas routes and the external routes. Now, point number 5. Can you still reach the networks and RIP? Also, we've done that from router 5. We made a ping and it's working. So we can still reach them using the default route inserted by the ABR. Now, make area 2 now a stub area. So we've done it before, a totally stub. Now we want to do it stub. Okay, it's a bit confusing in MikroTik, I know. But okay, when you say in MikroTik stub, that means it's a totally stub. Okay. So now we want to make it stub area, means stub to only block the LSA type 5. Okay, so we want to make it a stub. Do you still see LSA type 3, and why you don't see LSA type 5 anymore? So when we want to make an area a stub, we said that means it will block only the external routes, but the inter routes will be shown. So let's do area 2 now a stub. Okay, we go to router 1. What we need to do here, we go to areas, and actually if you click on this, you only have default NSSA and stub. Stub, that's already, we've made it, but we said when we say stub, that means it's totally stub. So to be able to show the inter areas or the LSA type 3 when you make it really stub and not totally stub, then what you need to do is to inject summary LSA. And this is done only on the ABR. In our case, router 1 is the ABR. You can also make it on router 5, but you don't need to. Okay, when you make it inject summary LSA, that means that this area 2 now is a stub area in the right meaning of stub area. Okay, means it will block only the external route. Let's check. Before I do that, I didn't click yet. Okay, just to show you that this is router 5. We're only getting now a default route, okay, on router 5 because it's totally stub. Okay, so I put it on the route now on router 5. I go back now to router 1 and inject summary LSA, stub, and okay. Now I move to router 5, and now again, because we changed now, it becomes a stub area, so it may take some time also now, but we will see in a moment that it will show the inter areas. And here we go. You can see all inter areas has been shown again, okay, but not the external route of RIP because the stub area blocks the type 5. Okay, so you can see it doesn't see the external route. And here in the LSA, if we want to look now, and we can see that he get all the summary networks which are the LSA type 3. Okay, so now we make a ping again to same, and we can see we're still able to reach that network on RIP because as you can see here that this default route is also still inserted, and that's to allow him to reach the networks that he doesn't have them on his routing table. For example, here, let me go to IP route here on router 5. You can see he can reach everything. He can see all the networks that I have on OSPF, this and this and this and this. So all those networks are the networks of the areas in OSPF. You can see them all, okay? And those are the connected network for him, but he cannot see RIP networks. And to be able to reach RIP network, then when we make like we did now, ping to 44.44.44.44, then he will look on his routing table. If he doesn't see that network, in this case he doesn't see it, then he will send it to his default route. That's why when you make a stub area, you don't block the inter routes, you block only the external route, but still the APR will insert for you a default route saying that if you want to go to the external route, you can use me as a default route for you, and I can send it to the external route. Okay, so make area 2 now a stub area. Do you still see the LSA type 3? Yes, we see LSA type 3. And why you don't see LSA type 5 anymore? Because the stub area blocks LSA type 5, which are the external routes. Okay. So this is the lab number 13 of the stub and the totally stub areas. It's now I think more clear for you when we did this lab. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will continue with the labs in the upcoming lecture.